that miscreant so-and-so bleepity bleep really wants to steal somebody's bicycle, the idea is that he steals someone else's. Lone Rider here, and I want to talk about bikes. In particular, I want to talk locking strategies for your bike. Now, if you ride anywhere except just on a pace line on Sunday morning, you'll notice that there's a tendency for bikes that are left outside of stores, outside of your place of employment. You know, when you just run into the coffee shop for a cup of coffee, there's a tendency that sometimes they're not there when you get back. And the sad fact is most bikes that are jacked aren't locked in the first place. So the first thing is, you know, any lock is better than not locking your bike. So, you know, compared to not locking it at all, locking it with a flimsy lock is better than nothing. Locking it with a lock that, you know, maybe not the greatest lock in the world, better than nothing. And if there's nothing that, you know, the lock you have, there's no way to attach it to an immovable object that's in the vicinity where you need to park it, then just locking the front wheel to the frame so that nobody can ride away on it, what's called free locking, is better than not doing anything. Somebody could still pick it up and carry it away, of course, but because it's not locked to anything else, but at least they're not going to be able to just hop on it and ride away. However, I wanted to talk about how you can avoid even having to free lock, and that's simply put, carry more than one lock. You know, if you're just riding around and maybe you're on your nice road bike or your nice mountain bike and you're not going to leave the bike unattended or you don't plan on it, keeping a skinny cable and a little padlock maybe inside the pouch under your seat, along with your spare inner tube and tire levers and stuff, that's fine. That's sufficient if you're just going to lock the bike up for 10 minutes while you run in and grab a latte or something. If you're going to be leaving the bike, let's say for any length of time, like you're shopping for a whole list of groceries that you're going to put in a big backpack or a set of panniers or something, you really should have more than one lock. So if you're going to have, let's say, a U-lock, which is useful for locking the frame to, let's say, a signpost or a bike lock, a bike rack rather, or the wheel to the frame, in the case of free locking, this is not going to be able to lock around large objects because it's only yay big. So if the only solid object, you can't even lock it to a lot of signposts now because a lot of signposts have a breakaway design. They're not set into the ground anymore. They're bolted with these little flimsy screws to all somebody's got to do, they could just unscrew the sign or they could just kick the damn thing, that's no good. So the idea of locking your bike to one of those signposts, you might as well not lock it. In that case, it literally is not any better than doing anything because what you're locking it to isn't an impediment, and everybody knows that. However, if you carry a cable or a chain with you, even if it doesn't have its own discrete lock, that gives you more options. If you have one of these and one of these, then you can combine them, and you not only are capable of locking both wheels to the frame, so neither of your wheels is going to go missing, even if they can't steal the bike, but then you have the ability to lock this to larger things. So using one of these just by itself, I've been able to lock my bike to a tree or to a pillar in front of a building. This is great for low theft areas where you just have to worry about somebody snatching the bike on a whim. If you're in an area where there might be a lot of bike thieves, or you're going to be leaving the bike outside for a long period of time, 2 locks minimum. And a lot of times what I would do is I would use 3. I would have this in conjunction with this, and then I would have one of those big chains. And I also, this was back when I was commuting by bike, so about 07, 08. The bike was a single speed, so it was basically that bike with a different fork. So it was a single speed that was a nice, fairly, I won't say high end, but fairly mid range road frame, lug steel road frame, that had been converted to fixed gear and had some high end parts on it. But the frame itself looked like crap. Not because there was anything wrong with it. I painted it, and then I had, over the proper paint job, and then I had started to sand it down so it looked like the paint was peeling. And, then I clear coated the whole thing so it would stay that way. So it looked like it was a piece of crap, but I had it dialed in beautifully, and that was nice. So the first thing was, it wasn't a fancy looking bike to the untrained eye, and it had no gears or anything. It was a fixed gear. I had a front handbrake, but that was it. Second thing is I locked it to a fire escape 4 feet off the ground. So there was a fire door coming out of the back of the building with a little platform, and then like a metal lattice work set of steps going down. So I locked it halfway up. So it's off the ground, it's around the building away from where the public goes by the loading dock behind the building. And then it's also under the overhang of the building, so it's protected somewhat from the rain. And then I also covered the seat and the handlebars with plastic bags. So, yeah, it looks like crap. It's in a pretty difficult to access comfortably position. You really have to make an effort to go up there to get it. And it's, it's got a minimum of 2, maybe 3 locks on it. And it's just going to look to anybody who's interested in taking the bike that it's worth, it's more trouble than it's worth. So basically what I would do is if I just had these two, I would lock this through one of the wheels and the frame. So either the seat tube and the rear wheel, or the front wheel and the down tube, and to one of the bars on the side of the fire escape thing. So it would be locking the frame and one of the wheels to each other and to the immovable object, the fire escape frame. Then I would have one of these cables, either this or I had a slightly longer one, that would go through both wheels, through the frame, and then also through the fire escape thing. And this has just a little chitsy lock on it now, but at the time I had like this ginormous padlock. And that was fine. I never had the bike stolen. I never had it messed with. Once I had some idiot who was trying to steal stuff from the place, throw the door open, and trying to go out the back way and hit it with the fire door. But that was it. And that was sufficient when I was in college as well. Although I didn't leave the bike. I sometimes left the bike when I was in the beginning when I was going to class. I locked it up. I either free locked it in the hallway or I locked it to a bike rack if the bike rack in the building was under an overhang where it was protected from the elements. But towards the end, especially when I was commuting by bike to college a lot, I had a really nice road bike with, Barcon shifters, and it was a Reynolds 531 frame. And that actually went inside with me. I carried it up the stairs to the 3rd floor, put it against the wall behind my desk, and sat down for the lecture. And nobody said anything. I mean, what were they going to say, But when I did have to lock it somewhere, same thing. I used more than one lock. Now, the sad truth is if somebody really wants to steal your bike for whatever reason, they'll find a way to steal it. Just like a car. If somebody really wants that particular car, they'll find some way to steal it. If they don't succeed in stealing it, they'll do a lot of damage in the process of trying to. And the same could happen to your bike. So, there's no guarantee, but the idea is to make it as difficult as possible, as uninviting as possible, and ultimately, if that miscreant so-and-so bleepity bleep really wants to steal somebody's bicycle, the idea is that he steals someone else's. It's sad to say. Ideally, we would live in a world without bike theft, or any kind of theft, but unfortunately, we don't. So, the idea is to make sure that you have a lock with you that can attach to enough things that, no matter where you are, within reason, you can find something to lock it to. And again, the idea of a decent sized cable in terms of length in conjunction with one of these is usually enough in a, moderately busy area. If you're in New York City or something, or Irvington, maybe you're going to want more locks or a bigger, thicker chain or thicker cable. But the idea is This is fairly light to carry, but it gives you options. This by itself is great, and it's quick for just locking the bike again to a bike rack, to whatever. This gives you the options to lock both the wheels to the bike and to lock the bike to larger objects. And again, you don't necessarily need a separate lock, but I find it helps because it's just one more thing. Somebody's going to look at it and say, "Oh, it's not worth my while." So, a little bit of locking strategies there.